First rule of quarterbacking, when things are going well, it's we. When things are going poorly, it's me.
Yeah.
First rule. And if you don't do that, you can't be a quarterback.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, back with you live for another 2-hour edition here of Birds 365. We'll be getting you ready for the Week 3 matchup between the Eagles and the Rams, a 1 p.m. game this weekend at Lincoln Financial Field. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning, brother?
Good. Getting creeping up. Need a little more synchronization. That was the Jalen Hurts word of the day. Synchronization. So we'll see if the Eagles can get some of that.
Yeah.
Against the mighty LA Rams, who everybody thinks is really good. I think they're good. I don't. There's some issues, for me with the offensive line and obviously the linebackers, which is what the Eagles took advantage of last year. So I think those advantages still exist for Philadelphia, but you would think they would stress the situation at least a little bit more where you have to come out of this shell offensively, because I think the whole thing with offense is just they're so conservative because they're always playing from the lead.
Right.
And the minute they're not, maybe they never will, but the minute they're not, they'll have to play a little bit differently, and I think it'll look better.
Yeah, the straitjacket is back, Johnny Mac. They got Jalen Hurts and that offense back in the straitjacket, man. They're not pushing the ball. They're not putting the ball at risk in any way. So we'll see how it evolves this week. They do have a tougher test this week. John, I want to start the show with just kind of some Eagles daily updates. We will get your take on Jalen Hurts' commentary yesterday. I did read your article on SI.com about Jalen Hurts taking a little bit of accountability for the stagnant offense. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But the first thing I want to do, John, is I want to start on the injury report. What do you know? What have you learned so far? I think Dallas Goedert is the big name. He looked like he returned to practice yesterday. So what's the injury report right now, the latest in Eagle land for who's set to go and who could not go this weekend for the Birds?
Yeah, pretty healthy team. That's another thing that continues to stretch into if you look around the league, some of the teams are already really crippled by certain injuries in the Eagles. One guy didn't practice yesterday, and that was Will Shipley, who's out with what's now described as an oblique injury. So I don't expect him to play again this week. Maybe start talking about him in week 4. Obviously wasn't placed on IR, so the goal is to get him back before that 4-game window. And then Dallas, as you mentioned, was limited. Tanner McKee was limited. I think he's got a good chance to be back as the backup quarterback this week. He's throwing the football. So that looks positive. Jalen Carter is limited with not the arm, but the shoulder, which he has had a problem with dating back to the early days of training camp, if you remember. So, and Vic mentioned that being part of the issue why his conditioning isn't up to par to this point. So those are your limited guys. Dallas did talk yesterday. I was with Jalen, but talked to the guys that were with Dallas, and he said he was, trying to convince them to let him play last week. So as advertised and told to me originally, probably going to be a 1-week injury, not that serious. They were just being cautious. It looks like he'll be back this week, and that's big because you saw, again, lack of production at tight end. Still used the 12 personnel a lot, which I don't understand, but wasn't very effective at times. And he should be back. Now, again, when you say that, it's Wednesday yesterday when we're talking. It's Thursday today. The guys get banged up in practice. Guys have setbacks. So,
yeah, right.
But he's on track to play, I would say. So that part of it's certainly positive, but very healthy as a whole. I mean, I get injury reports from a bunch of teams. They're long, and the Eagles it's been an amazing run from that standpoint as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the philosophy that they employ on the team, right? I mean, we might chirp them about, hey, they look rusty in week 1 and 2, and because they don't play preseason, but their system, John, it has worked in a large way for this for the health of this football team. They've had some very healthy seasons the last really 3 years, John. It feels like, at least to me. I remember 22, they played the Super Bowl with every starter that started the year, didn't they?
Yeah, well, this year they did as well. Not start of the year, but every starter with they were very healthy coming into this Super Bowl, ridiculously so.
Yeah, outside into Kobe Dean, I think everybody else
Yeah.
played. Yeah.
So from the standpoint, yeah, it's been quite the run. Now that, yeah, certainly when it comes to week one, I think their philosophy helps a lot to get guys out there. But a lot of that is out of your hands, out of your control. And they've had good injury luck. Um, and that's why everybody looks at the sky and says, well, at some point, something's going to happen. It's pro football. He thought about that when Landon went down in training camp, and all of a sudden, he's got surgery and he's back. Canned out beers a day later. So it's been a nice stretch when it comes to injuries, but there's certain things like obviously torn ACLs, torn patellar tendons, as you did lose Ben Van Sumeren, so they've lost players. But not key players, and that's a big part of it.
Yep, no doubt about it, John. And then on the other side of the ball, the Rams injury report. I think they're pretty healthy as well. They had a couple guys did not practice yesterday. A couple guys to keep an eye on. Devontae Adams, but he was rest, so he'll be good to go for the game. And then you had 3 significant guys on their trenches. So you have Steve Avila with an ankle, and offensive lineman. I believe he's their center, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have Rob Havenstein, offensive lineman as well. Now he was rest, so he should be good to go. But Steve Avila missed the game last week. He got replaced by Justin Goedert, and we'll see if he can go. And then Braden Fisk with an oblique was out of practice. He got injured, John, in pregame warmups last week, and then he only played 13 snaps in the game. So if those 2 guys can't go, that will be a knock for the Rams for sure.
Yeah, I don't think their offensive line is fine, I would say, but I don't think it's top 5 or near the top of the league when they're healthy, and they do have some issues. So that's what I was talking about before. Those are the 2 situations, because they're really good at quarterback. They're really good at receiver, obviously. So the skill position players are really good. Kyron Williams, I like as a player, but I mentioned yesterday, a little bit concerned about his propensity to put the football on the ground, which the Eagles took advantage of last season in both games. So it was consistent. And then the linebackers, and you've gotten Christian Rosenboom out there, Nate Landman in there. But again, I don't know if that's enough to make that big of a standpoint. But those are 2 positions that can't afford to lose people out, and they're already banged up. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. Most of the league is already banged up, and the Eagles are like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, right.
For the most part.
Yeah, right. John, a couple players spoke yesterday. We'll talk to you about that. Jalen Hurts, I like what he had to say. I think that's kind of, I don't know, maybe just my perspective, but growth as a leader, in terms of, I don't know if all this offensive stagnation is on him or not. Maybe more if it is on him than we're laying out. But, he kind of took a lot of credit for it yesterday. Hey, it's my job to go out there and facilitate this offense. It's my job to make this thing run. Basically, just phrasing for Jalen Hurts. Your thoughts on kind of his comments yesterday on the offense and where they are as a unit?
Well, first rule of quarterbacking, when things are going well, it's we. When things are going poorly, it's me. First rule. And if you don't do that, you can't be a quarterback. So I think it's always positive when the quarterback stands up and take accountability. Now, sometimes it's not their fault. The other cliche that's true, quarterbacks get more credit for what happens when you win, and more blame than they deserve when you lose.
Right.
Just nature of playing the position. So I mean, again, everybody wants an answer. It's the offensive coordinator. It's the play calls. It's all of it, and he's part of it, and he's a big key part of it. So, and even things like the mindset of, hey, we're ahead again. Let's just run this thing out. Let's not turn it over and get out of here with a victory. Even that factors into it. So all these things happen. But yeah, I think, there's a give and take to that double positive they always talk about, the turnover ratio, explosive plays, and
Yep.
they don't correlate. So, to get more explosive plays, you got to take chances sometimes. And they don't take chances because they're trying to win games. Um, at some point they will have to take chances and you'll see what the offense really is.
Yeah.
But this mentality of they can turn the switch on whenever they want. I didn't like it last year, and people say, "Well, it worked." Okay, you know, talking about consistent long range. That to me is the anomaly, not the standard, as Jalen would say. That's the anomaly. Um, you can't just assume it's going to be there if you don't use it, and then you need it. And maybe it happens they need it this week, and maybe people say again, see, they could do it whatever they want. I don't believe that. And one of the reasons I don't believe that is because they don't believe that. They didn't believe it last year. Did it happen? Yes. But you can go back, you can look at all the interviews and all the quotes coming out of some of the games, the Carolina game most specifically, where everybody's including Jalen Hurts is like, you know, basically if you don't use it, are you going to lose it?
Right.
Um, so it's an interesting discussion and a very layered discussion, which is not, the easiest thing to get across because people are people. They want to blame something, um, and it's a bunch of different things. It really is.
John, you mentioned last year with when they did not have their running game, excuse me, as explosive as many of the other games in the year, you know, they were able to take advantage of it, as you just pointed out. This year, and it's only 2 games, so it's a very small sample size, but Jalen Hurts ranked 33 of 34 with any quarterbacks that have 20 or more dropbacks in their average depth of target. It's the lowest in his career by far. It almost feels like they're not even trying to push the ball down the field, and it's not like they've had 2 world beater running games. So I don't know when it's going to come. I don't know if it's just early evolution. I don't know what the reason for that is, but I see a problem with that, John, where, at least last year, they might have passed it limited or they might have been 29th ranked. But when they did pass it, they were pushing the ball down the field. I mean, they hit deep shots. Their average depth of target last year, I think, was 8 yards, one of the highest in Hurts' career. It almost feels like they're not even trying to push it right now. Now, it's only 2 games. I understand that. We got long way to go here. But have you noticed that, or are you less concerned on that than I am?
No, well, I saw the number, but yeah, that the sample size is way too small to take that much into it. I mean, everybody goes back and everybody acknowledges and everybody now sees that they had a shot play called up on the first play of the game. Um, and that's a perfect example of, all right, well, it's called. That's going to be a 30-yard pass down the field or whatever. He seemed like he was wide open, unless it's a completely misfired ball. It's going to be a big play down the field. And the tight end misses the block, and you don't even know it exists until it's explained and you watch the all 22 and everybody, yep, we had it called up. I mean, that's football. And that's why I always say nobody's judging play calls, they're judging play results. And that has nothing to do with play calling. But overall, yeah, they've been very conservative. It's fair to say that.
Yeah.
But they haven't been in a position where they need to not be not conservative. Generally, you see it all the time with mainly with the poorer teams. What happens when they're down by 2 scores? Well, they start taking chances. And then a lot of times things manifest in a negative way and a 2-score lead becomes a 3-score lead. Or sometimes, they got it clicking and they close the lead and it's exciting and everybody loves offensive football and there's a back and forth. right now the Eagles haven't had to pull that card out. The question is, can they pull it out when they need it?
Well, I feel like, and I understand they're 2 wins, but it feels like those games. You said it on the postgame show. If the Eagles play A+ football in this game, they blow that team off the page. And that's kind of where I feel like I'm between, where it's like, we're winning. Yeah, I like it. But as you always talk about, the margin for error is smaller. And you can almost see that in the scores of the first 2 games, where it feels like the Eagles were much better football teams than both of those teams. And they squeak out of there with W's. Now, I get it. It's some of that's just football. You're not going to win every game by a big margin. But, part of me wants to see them activated a little bit more. We'll see if they can continue to do that. John, anybody else speak yesterday that had some notable commentary? I was busy in the middle of the day. I didn't get to hear everybody, but I did hear Jalen Hurts, who I thought was great. But any other key takeaways from Jalen or anybody else that spoke yesterday?
Well, I had a lot of tush push stuff, unfortunately, understandably. So I kind of tuned out. Jordan was good. Jordan Mailata.
Oh yeah, Mailata went off on it, right?
Yeah. But I kind of, as I said, I'm boycotting the tush push talk, at least. I don't care. Run the plays. But it's funny. Jordan said, it's cooked. So enjoy it. He basically said the same thing.
Yeah. Jason
Compared
Kelsey's out there on Twitter too, running a tour for it again. I'm like,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Lurie got to Kelsey because I think he spoke at the owners' meeting last year.
Yeah.
Now he's on Twitter, vouching for the play. But look, I think it's gone, but it is what it is. We'll have it for the year, Johnny Mac.
Yeah. So enjoy it. Jordan said you got 6 months to live. What do you do? Live it up, basically. So, and maybe they call it 18 times. He's joking, but plus it's a very successful play. They should use it as long as it is legal. There's nothing wrong with it. I've never made that argument. I just don't think it belongs in the game. But it is in the game, and they should use it because they do it than everybody else. They do it better than everybody else, and we'll see how by the way, you have to see how the NFL officiates it, because they're going to get instructions because of that shit show. So
the guy on Twitter, John, NFL Ref Stats was messaging me yesterday about that, about keeping an eye on, he thinks there's some sort of directive that might be given to the officials.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would
muddying the water on that,
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all that they will be told to look for this or look for that. But anyway, that to me is just driving me insane. So I'll leave that off to the side for now. But one of the things, just to wrap up the Chiefs stuff. Like, they've been good for so long. Like one theme I heard was Arrowhead is such a tough place to play. Like they came in, and historically that's absolutely correct. Under this team, it is one of the toughest places to play. And I think they went in with the mentality of this is the old Chiefs. And that's where we differ. I think in a lot of ways they hampered themselves by giving the Chiefs the respect that they earned when they were the Chiefs.
Right.
I don't think they're that team anymore. And I think they were very conservative from that standpoint as well. But the stadium part of it's still true because there's that lag where the fans there still think they're really good. I don't think they're really good. And I think the Eagles gave them that deference. So I think that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead of just going, we're better than this team. Let's go.
Right.
Let's just go roll.
Almost bought into it a little too much. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I truly believe they did. And then the part you saw at the end of the half, Mahomes is Mahomes, and there's this fear of giving him the football at the end of the game or the end of the half, and that's what happened with the Eagles there, and they were less aggressive than normal. So it just seeps into your mindset. Which it's in years past, you certainly don't want Patrick Mahomes getting the ball last, but if he's thrown to Tyquan Thornton, that might change your thought process and say, well, he's going to get the ball last, but his best receiver is Tyquan Thornton. You might go, oh, all right, well, maybe I'm not so scared.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that seeped into the thought process.
Yeah, they got out of there with the win. Now moving on to the Rams here in week 3. It should be a good game this weekend. I think it's one of the best games of the weekend. I think that Monday night game is going to be pretty good. If I'm not mistaken, the Monday night game is Ravens and Lions. That's either Monday night or Sunday night. I thought it was Monday night. I'll have to double check that.
I got to look at the schedule.
Yeah, let me pull it up. But Eagles Rams is one of the better games of the week here in the NFL week 3, and it's a 1 p.m.er. So Johnny Mac is happy about that. Tonight we gotta suffer through the
Miami Dolphins.
But at least
boy,
at least we can watch the Bills.
I don't know what the spread is on this game for all the gamblers out there, but take the Bills.
Yeah,
I don't care what it is. Take the Bills. This is the closest thing to a college game you're going to see. Not for the reason the Dolphins have good players. Like I say, everybody has good players, but they've checked out on that coach. It's clear. Everybody knows what's going on. It's a bad situation down there. But yeah, certainly the Eagles Rams are, and that Lions Ravens game is Monday night. Sunday night is Chiefs Giants. So we got 2 stinkers.
Chiefs Giants. Oh man.
Thursday night, Sunday night, we got 2 stinkers. And that's what happens quickly.
I bet you that Giants team will garner a little attention for 1 week after putting.
Well, it's New York. Yeah. I mean,
well, they put up like 450 yards last week. So I think some people will be like, oh, wow, could they do that again? Maybe.
They always try to hype up the New York football teams because it is New York, but they've been so bad. There's nothing you can do.
The New York teams are.
It's been a long time where both of them have just been a disaster. So, and that always happened. I mean, you had JJ McCarthy in the windows on Monday night, Sunday night, and that was just. I mean, I couldn't finish those games. I don't know if other people could, but that's some ugly football, and yet they keep setting records for TV ratings. People do not turn off the NFL, no matter what.
They really don't. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable phenomenon how the NFL, especially in modern times, John, where
everything is
there's a million options. You know what I mean? Like you can watch anything all over the place. There's never been more options for entertainment than
never. Right and now. TV ratings as a whole are in free fall to the point that people think it's a dying industry, except
the NFL. It's crazy.
For the NFL, and playoffs in other sports. But
even those, I mean, what's the highest rated NBA finals, which is probably the second biggest sport?
Well, I'm just comparing it to, I'm not comparing it to the NFL, to the rest of television. It's still very, very successful.
Yeah, right. So the NBA finals average 10.27 million viewers over 7 games. Like that's pretty good. You're right for the rest of television, but even that in comparison to the NFL,
to the NFL, it's horribly bad. But,
just
compared to everything else, it's like by far number 1 of the week. And, I don't think people realize how few people watch linear TV now.
Yeah.
And the people that do have so many, to your point, options that everything's fragmented. Which is interesting because they keep giving these massive television deals to the NBA and, the NFL, it's understandable. Like, but that too, like, they don't make money on the NFL because they pay them so much.
Right.
They can't. It's a loss leader for them, and the fact that there's a prestige in having NFL football, and you try.
Yeah, it's a catalyst to make money in other areas. Yeah,
but there's just from the pure amount of money they spend, and that's always been the one concern, but there's no evidence of it slowing down, that these people wake up and say, we're losing too much money. And if you stop TV rights fees in all of sports, the entire landscape changes. That is, like, I think we always talk about the NFL on my tangent, but this is an interesting subject to me because I have a lot of contacts and I've covered TV ratings and rights fees for a long time.
Yeah.
If that ever changes, I don't think people understand. Like, for all the talk of the NFL and how much money they make, 66%, 2/3 comes from television right fees. Bang.
I do think some of these outlets are getting closer to being positioned for making up for for that, like these streaming network software. If
Yeah.
Netflix, no, not as big.
Well, they're big. It depends how you look at it. From a stock standpoint, like Netflix is off the charts.
Right.
From a debt standpoint, they
Yeah.
keep losing money. They can't monetize it.
Yeah, they got a lot of debt. These companies, these modern companies, John.
It's always been like, because I've had this argument. Social media people are very focused on, well, everybody does this on social media, everybody does that on and they're 100% right. How do you monetize it?
Well, look at us right here.
Well, I'm talking.
You're right in the sense of it's actually one of the things I take pride in. A lot of people make a lot of content. It's not easy to monetize the content you create on these platforms.
And I'm talking NFL level. So you're getting, billions of dollars, and more people. And this is a problem for every big television vehicle. So NFL, NBA specifically, because their audience skews young. And Adam Silver admitted this recently, might have been this week. More people watch their product in, highlight form, be it TikTok or X or Instagram, or more people watch their product on that than watch their product on. Now they're going to be on Amazon for years.
Right.
They've been on TV. More people watch it, but the other guys are the ones paying them. So how do you keep them happy?
Right.
If everybody's just consuming things and X isn't paying what freaking Amazon is paying for the full games, but yet people sit and watch highlights on X and get their information that way. It's a very interesting situation people are trying to navigate. And there's always been this fear that at some point they're going to wake up and say, we can't afford this anymore. And to a certain degree, it's happened with baseball. ESPN said, we're out.
Yeah.
We can't afford this. Now they're trying to renegotiate and get back for a lesser number. But they're like, we're out. So it's already started.
I know. It's going to be interesting, John, the next 10 years how this develops. But we'll keep an eye on it. John, a couple super chats we'll get to. I have a good conversation for you coming up here in hour number 2. We're going to talk to Caden Steele. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Don't forget to hit that like button for us. All right, coming into week 3 of the NFL. It goes by quick, John. I know sometimes you like to say it doesn't go by quick, but, man, it goes by quick. We're already going into week 3 here in the NFL, man. So let's get to some super chats right now. John, you'll like this one. All right. Anytime a Billy Bean is referenced, Eduardo, good job. John loves Moneyball. Eduardo says, I'm getting Billy Bean vibes from the Eagles, but instead of getting players on base, Eagles are going for no turnovers. LOL.
Yeah. Well, and you want to boil it down even further. You're not buying players, you're buying wins for Billy Bean, if you want to use the Billy Bean thought process. So, yeah, I mean, the Eagles are ahead of the game when it comes to that stuff. And look, you have to do it. You have to execute it. Everything comes down to execution. The number 39-8. I mean, all right, you could say it. That's their turnover ratio in these 18 of 19 games. 39-8. 39 takeaways, 8 giveaways. You're going to win a lot of football games. And they've won a lot of football games. And how do you, the easiest way to ball security, there's technique and all that stuff, and the Eagles pay more attention to it than most. I see it every day at practice. They spend an inordinate amount of time on ball security. So there's technique and fundamentals, but the easiest way, don't put the football in harm's way.
Yeah.
If you're dropping back 40 times and throwing layered throws over the middle of the field,
yeah, but
guess what?
Don't you think there's like we talked about this yesterday, but they've like reduced it to that, and it's like that maybe makes sense for a team that has Tyquan Thornton. Does that make sense for a team that has A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, where you have the ability to be as explosive as the Eagles' offense would allow? And if you get to that level, or you push to achieve those desired results, the margin for error will be so much bigger that if you do get a couple more turnovers, you'll be all right. It almost feels like we've reduced it. All we want to do is sneak by. When I don't feel like we have to sneak by every week, John. I feel like we're good enough to not have to sneak by, but I don't know. Maybe I'm off base.
Well, you're right. I mean, that was the mentality of the greatest show on turf Rams. Um, and that's the only team I've seen succeed with that mentality. I will say that. So that to me is an anomaly too,
Right.
because they would turn it over all the time. Not all the time, but they didn't give a shit. They're like, all right, what, we're down set. We're just gonna go bang, bang, bang right down the field and score. And they didn't care. And it worked for them for 1 year. Um, and they won the Super Bowl. So you can always point to these little anomalies. But hey, as good as the Eagles are, they're not that good from a standpoint of, that might be the best offense of all time. Marshall Falk, all Hall of Famers all over the place. Kurt Warner,
Yeah, right.
high volume
That's
thrower.
an extreme though, John, isn't it? Like there's
Well,
like
that's what I'm saying. It's an anomaly, just like the Eagles were an extreme in the other direction. I think
right.
so. What I'm saying is, you can point to the Rams and say, "Well, they did it. You can do it." No, they're an anomaly. And you can point to the Eagles. Well, they did it this way, and you can do it. No, they're the anomaly. That's what I'm saying. They're both extremes.
All right. What about like in the middle though, where like most of the modern game is played, where the Eagles obviously
Well,
have the
then
best.
that's where the middle is. That's where you're 10 wins, 9 wins. Nobody wants to be there.
So you like what you think what they're
No,
doing?
I don't like it. I think what they've done is there's two different things. Is it pretty? Is it aesthetic? No, it's brutal. Let's be honest, it's brutal. Um, is it successful? Yes, you can't debate if it's successful for them. They built the team this way, and they're taking advantage of how they built the team. You can't build a team a certain way and then play a different way and say, go play like the greatest show on turf Rams. And the greatest show on turf Rams can't play like the Super Bowl 59 Eagles. I mean, that's part of the greatness. You build a team and you take advantage of what you do well and you ride it to a Super Bowl. That's what a special season is.
Right.
Um, but when you start talking about longevity, neither of those philosophies works with longevity. Like, you can't just play like the Rams, the greatest show on turf Rams, for 10 years and say,
right.
well, just do it again. And we'll rotate some rando in for Marshall Falk, and we'll rotate, somebody in for Torrey Houghton. We'll keep it going, and Isaac Bruce, and we'll keep it going. Doesn't work that way. So if you're talking about longevity, if you're talking about the Patriots and teams like that, then it's about building more of something that can sustain. And I don't think either of those avenues, those extremes, can sustain for a decade. Like, the Patriots won more than a decade, but for that kind of longevity, I don't think either of those philosophies sustain. You've already saw it with the Rams. It didn't sustain itself. I don't think this can sustain itself. And I think you're seeing some of the cracks early this season, even though they're 2-0. Like, it shouldn't be this much of a chore. But they boiled it down to, if we just turn the football and see the mindset. Like, if I'm Nick Sirianni and I'm in my office by myself, I mean, I'm being honest with myself, and I'm saying, well, yeah, we're 2-0, but now, and we're winning the turnover ratio as usual, and we don't turn the football over. But now we're counting on CD Lamb dropping the football. We're counting on Travis Kelce dropping. I don't want to be in that position.
Right. And that's where you got to try and increase your margin a little bit. And,
Yeah.
and the way to do that is to move the ball a little bit differently. More.
And they'll get better. I said they'll get better. There's too much talent, and they'll be in positions where they have to push it. So the personality of the game will take care of itself at times, where you have to play a certain way. But when they don't have to play and they're controlling things, they're going to be conservative. Let's be honest.
Yep, good stuff there. Eduardo, appreciate the super chat, brother. Brian Fleming checks in with $5. What's up, Brian? We have 10 games left against playoff teams last year. Squeaking by a dilapidated Chiefs team and the Cowgirls is concerning. Week 3 or not?
Well, like I said, I think part of it was seeped over a self-fulfilling prophecy from talking to a bunch of guys yesterday. It's like, well, it's such a hard place to play, and it is. But you're talking about the old Chiefs. Hey, maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but I don't think they're very good. I don't think life moves quickly, right, in the NFL, and just because you were good last year doesn't mean you're going to be good this year. And the Chiefs have had a tremendous run, and it'll get better when Rashee Rice gets back and Xavier Worthy is healthy. It'll get better for them. They're not a terrible team, but the team that played the Eagles on Sunday wasn't good. So, and I think you gave them the deference of this is the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that was part of the issue as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like that take by you. JD3 checks in. What's up, JD? It's time for Eagles fans to admit Herbert is top 5. I might have him top 3. Through 2 weeks, he's been the most impressive.
Where are those dummies? Where are those dummies? Look at it. Those are the people that look at a stat book, look at one game, look at one playoff game, and say the quarterback is responsible for everything. And like, I don't have any time for those people. That I always call it least common denominator, low hanging fruit. If you're boiling everything down to quarterback versus quarterback, I mean, it's not worth having a discussion. It's not. Anybody in this league, I had this debate for years about Matthew Stafford. Now everybody's like, Matthew Stafford's great, and he's not even as good as he was.
Yeah, right.
At his age, he was much better in Detroit. I get that. I get that feeling with Justin Herbert. There's a lot of people are like,
see, I get that feeling with Joe Burrow, where he's in such a shitty organization. Like my only problem with Herbert, and I agree, he's an
well, no, but
extremely
Joe's already
talented.
made a Super Bowl. He's
Yeah, but
been
wait, my point is that Joe proved, like, when they did get there, he's a big game player. My only thing with Herbert, and I don't know, John, maybe you don't think this. I think there is an element to players that play big in big games. Not everybody's capable of doing it. At least I don't think. And I think certain guys handle it very well. Justin Herbert, only to this point, I mean, he's a great quarterback, but he hasn't quite handled the big game in his career. I think he's got 2 playoff games, and both of them are pretty ugly performances on his part. So that's my only thing there is I like to see players who play good.
I'm just telling you, he's a great quarterback.
Yeah,
That's all I'm telling you.
He's got great talent. There's no doubt.
mean, and
he
now
looks like
that
a man on a mission this year. I will say that he looks a lot.
And now that he's got a coach who understands how to coach, and who understands how to help him, elevate his natural gifts, it's going to get better. And I'm very wary of so and so can't play because of one playoff game. Again, Ben Roethlisberger had his worst game in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes had 2 of his worst games in his Super Bowl losses. Literally 2 of his worst games.
John, he was pretty bad at one of his Super Bowl wins too. People forget that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like the only thing worse than one game scouting is one play scouting. You know, when people take out one play and say, look at this guy. This guy's great. Take out the biggest highlight of the game. And meanwhile, that was like Devin White. That to me defines Devin White. Right. Look at this guy. And then you watch the 60 other plays and you go, oh boy, he's constantly out of position. He's in the wrong gaps, all that kind of stuff. But he's such a super athlete. You know, every once in a while, you just guess right and you look like a world beater.
Right.
When you have consistent play from play to play to play to play, that to me is true greatness. And Herbert's still young, but yeah, it was very weird. First of all, I have no idea why Eagles fans care about the chart. I guess because on most of those lists, he's ahead of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I think that's literally it. It's just quarterback rankings.
But I've tried to explain, if you're another executive, you're not playing like the Eagles. So yeah, the 31 other executives, I guarantee more than 16. So that 16 to 16 would be even. I guarantee you more than 16 would want Justin Herbert because they're going to play a different style of football. So I mean, if you use that thought process, maybe it makes it a little easier, or even easier. Who gives a shit? For the Philadelphia Eagles, I take Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Because that's what the Eagles are built for.
Yeah, right.